Welcome again, my children. Gather around me, for tonight I have a story that will freeze the blood in your veins. It's a tale I heard while traveling through America in 1980. The story takes us back to the distant year 1833 to an abandoned and haunted place that no one dares to mention. This is the story of the Rosewood Hotel, a site of a horrific massacre and endless paranormal activities. The Rosewood Hotel stood at the end of a secluded road, hidden deep in the forests of New England. It was a beautiful, luxurious hotel built in Victorian style, with lavish rooms, elegant dining halls, and gorgeous gardens. But beneath this lovely exterior lay a dark secret. On one cold December night in 1833, the hotel was full of guests. Mr. Jonathan Carmichael, the hotel's owner, was a man with a dark past known for his cruelty. That night, for reasons unknown, Carmichael suffered a nervous breakdown. He took a butcher knife from the kitchen and went on a bloody rampage through the hotel's halls. No one survived. The guests were brutally massacred, their bodies left in grotesque poses and pools of blood everywhere. A ghastly sight. After the massacre, Carmichael killed himself. The police conducted an investigation, the hotel was closed, and the story of the massacre became a local legend. No one dared to approach the hotel, believing it to be cursed. Decades later, the hotel remained abandoned, but the stories about it did not disappear. People spoke of eerie things happening at night. One year, a group of curious young men decided to explore the hotel. "Do you have the guts to go inside?" asked one of the boys, Jack, as they stood before the rusted gates of the hotel. "Of course," replied Sam, the bravest among them. "They're just old stories." As they approached the hotel, a cold wind howled through the trees, creating spooky sounds. The boys opened the old, creaky doors and stepped inside. Inside, everything was frozen in time. Furniture covered in thick layers of dust, broken chandeliers hanging from the ceiling, and floors littered with shards of glass. Only Jack and Sam went inside as the others chickened out, likely due to fear, and waited for them outside the hotel. Night quickly fell, and inside it became even more terrifying. As they explored the halls, they heard whispers. They stopped and listened. "Did you hear that?" asked Jack, his voice trembling. "It must be just the wind," said Sam, trying to sound brave, but his face betrayed his fear. The whispering grew louder and louder. Suddenly, the door of one room slammed open. The boys froze in fear, their hearts pounding. A figure of a woman with long black hair covering her face emerged from the room. Her eyes were empty black pits, and her dress was soaked in blood. "Run!" shouted Jack, but Sam was too scared to move. The woman began to move towards them, and the boys felt a chill filling the hallway. Jack grabbed Sam's hand, and they both ran towards the exit. But the doors slammed shut in front of them as if some invisible force didn't want to let them go. "What do we do now?" Sam asked, panicking. "Find another way out," Jack replied. As they made their way through the hotel, the lights started flickering, and the cold air became thicker. The walls creaked, and the old chandeliers swayed as if they were about to fall. They heard footsteps behind them as if someone was following them. "Hide quickly," Jack whispered, pulling Sam into one of the rooms. Inside, the room was filled with old furniture and broken mirrors, but something was wrong. The air was heavy, and the boys felt as if someone was watching them. They looked around and saw a mirror on the wall. In the reflection, they saw the silhouette of a man with a knife, but when they turned around, no one was there. "This is crazy," said Sam. "We need to get out of here now." They tried to open a window, but it wouldn't budge. Panic was rising. Suddenly, they heard children laughing, but there was no one there. The sounds were coming from all directions, invisible hands were touching them, and they felt cold breaths on their necks. "You're right, Sam, we have to get out of here," Jack shouted, trying to break the window, but with no success. As they struggled with the window, the door of the room slowly creaked open, and the figure of a man with a knife stood in the doorway. His face was twisted into a gruesome grin. It was the spirit of the hotel's owner, the ghost of the murderer who committed the massacre. "You can't escape! Ha ha ha!" said the voice from the shadows, laughing malevolently. "This is your home now." The boys fled the room, running through the hotel's halls. Every door they tried was locked. Eerie voices, whispers, and laughter followed them, while the footsteps behind them grew louder. They finally reached the old ballroom. The enormous room was covered in dust and broken furniture. In the center of the ballroom stood large mirrors, and behind them a passageway they hadn't noticed before. "This is our chance," shouted Sam. They rushed towards the mirror, but as they approached, figures from the mirror began to emerge. Familiar faces of the ghosts, victims of the massacre, stared at them, reaching out with their hands to grab them. "Quick!" shouted Jack, pushing Sam through the passageway. As they went through the passage, they heard the ghosts screaming and laughing behind them. They reached a small room with an old wooden door at the end. They opened the door and found themselves on the other side of the hotel, near the exit. Without thinking, they ran towards the exit, but the ghosts were following. Outstretched hands tried to grab them. When they finally reached the exit, the doors swung open and the boys rushed outside. The cold night air filled their lungs as they gasped for breath. "This is madness," said Sam. "We are never coming back here." Jack agreed, trembling with fear. They looked back at the hotel, and the doors and windows slammed shut by themselves. The eerie whispering still echoed through the night. From that night on, Jack and Sam never spoke of their experience, not even to the boys who had waited in fear outside the hotel. But the story of the haunted Rosewood Hotel continued to be passed down through generations. Everyone knew that the hotel was not just abandoned, but cursed. And so, my children, that is the story of the haunted Rosewood Hotel. Never forget that there are things in this world we cannot explain. And never forget that evil never sleeps. Until the next story, like, share, and subscribe. Go with God, children. Greetings from Grandpa Avram.